I'm Peter Waisnor, Vice President at Tenba.
I'm George Estreich, Industrial Designer at Tenba, and we're here to talk to you today about some of the cool features and engineering details of our new Tenba Roadie collection.
So we've been working on the Roadie collection for a bunch of years, on and off, and we worked with a lot of people around the world on input, on how they traveled and everything, and some issues that we wanted to solve in the industry. And so we think we came up with some pretty great solutions. We really spent a lot of time custom engineering a lot of components of this so that not only is it the best rolling case we've ever created, but it includes a lot of features and components that actually didn't exist before this case existed.
And when they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, the original Roadie is a beloved case amongst professional photographers, and we really didn't want to take anything that was working, which was almost everything on the original Roadie, and ruin it. So by adding features, we had to make sure that we kept what people love about the original case and just make sure that everything was plussed up and better across the board.
So like as an example, we custom designed our wide track wheel on this case. And so it's a wheel that exists only on a Tenba case. It doesn't exist on not only any other camera case in the world, but any other piece of luggage in the world. We made it. When you meet with a wheel manufacturer and you tell them that you want to make your own wheel, they're like, wait, what? Because no one really does that. You know, it's just enormously expensive. It's hugely time consuming, but it allowed us to do something super cool, which is to build a wheel that makes this case unbelievably stable, and it means that photographers can feel secure knowing that the case is never going to tip forward on their laptop or jostle their camera equipment when they're on set, or if it's on a tilt or anything like that.
Right, so what we did was we asked our engineers to do something that is really unusual in the luggage world, which is to increase the thickness, increase the weight, and increase the strength of our wheels. That's like words that are not well understood in the luggage market, which is all about cost and lightweight. And did I mention cost? When you try to increase the rigidity, when you try to increase the thickness of the components, when you try to increase the quality of the bearings, the structure of the wheel's internal structural ribbing, these are things that are really unusual in the luggage market because the lightest wheel is typically the wheel that people choose. It's typically the wheel that engineers are working on. So when we came in, we basically said we want the strongest, most durable, user-replaceable wheel that we could possibly engineer. We looked at what was available. There's nothing available that met our expectations and our needs, and we designed one from scratch. So that gave us the opportunity to do things that are, like I said, unusual, such as moving the entire bearing structure forward in our front wheel, which enabled us to add support underneath the laptop sleeve in the front of the case. So changes like that enabled us to make a wheel that was more structurally stable for all use cases, especially, for example, when the front of the case is a bit more heavy than the rest of the case, which can happen from time to time.
Yeah, one of the strange things about building a camera case, of course, is that if you take a standard piece of luggage, maybe 3% or 5% of people might actually put a laptop sleeve in the front, right? But if we take photographers and filmmakers and content creators, basically 100% of the people will have, and they're going to have the largest laptop. Exactly. They almost all have a 16-inch laptop. They're going to have their adapter in there. So the amount of weight that's going to be in the front pocket is just more than ever would be even on a standard piece of luggage that has a front pocket, which is incredibly rare. Somebody might have a rain jacket in the front or something like that.
Right.
We have the maximum amount of weight in the front. Then we're offering people the opportunity to hang more weight on the front of it. Yeah. Right, which is, so we have not just an incentive, but it's just like a requirement to build a kind of wheel that just like a luggage company would just never have even a thought to do.
Yeah, and it worked. I mean, this case is the best performing spinner case that I've ever used. I've been in the luggage industry for over a decade. This is second to none in terms of the smoothness. Some of our testers are using skateboards to ride around with this thing rolling next to them, and it's like possible, which you can't really say that about most spinners on the market. It's simply not possible to ride a skateboard at speed with a spinner case next to you. The wheels aren't smooth enough. They don't roll over bumps and imperfections in the ground well enough. This is a wheel that can accomplish what no other wheel can, and it's the basis of our case. They're all connected with an aluminum frame. When you think about most spinners, they're usually designed with a split in the center of the case. What that does is it makes a distinct front and back of the case. And in that case, there's a little bit of instability between the platform of the back wheels and the front wheels. What that means ultimately is that the case can get hung up on things like curbs, imperfections in the ground and pavement, cracks, for example. What we did was we connected all of our wheels with an aluminum plate that is installed in the bottom of the case. It provides a really uncompromising structural evenness to the wheels, which makes the case roll butter smooth on almost all surfaces. Additionally, it provides all sorts of drop protection, protection from the case being damaged from improper handling. This is essentially what's locking all of your wheels true and flat on the ground, which is a major improvement from the rest of the spinners on the market. Obviously, a split case design, which has a zipper in the center, introduces all sorts of structural instabilities to the case. What you'll notice about our Roadie is that actually we used a long bound design where the entire side gusset of the case is a one-piece unit. That gives the entire case much more stability, more strength, more protection for the contents inside, and it rolls way smoother.
So the next big thing that we engineered for the Roadies was removable backpack straps, optional removable backpack straps. So one of the big things that we always had before was that we made our regular Roadie, and then we made the Roadie hybrid, which had the backpack straps. And so every time we go to a trade show, do I want the backpack straps or do I not want the backpack straps? Well, I'm in my 70s, so I really don't want to carry this, but I live in Venice Beach and sometimes I shoot a wedding on the beach and I'm going to have to carry it. Or I live in Colorado and there's rough terrain, or sometimes it's muddy and I need to carry it. So then they would just go back and forth about whether or not to get the backpack strap. So we wanted to eliminate that problem, which is to make all of the cases, all of the spinner cases in this case, able to use a set of backpack straps. So all of the cases are going to look like this on the back, all the spinners. So they don't come with the backpack straps. And then should you need backpack straps because of the way that you work, or because of where you work, or because of the weather where you work, they are possible to purchase additionally. And so these backpack straps loop through these loops that are built onto the back here. They have a unbelievably secure attachment point that we've tested to over 100 pounds, which is more than you can even fit in the case. And then they have these extra straps that come up to the top of the case and load lifters so that they hold really tight to your body and so that the bag doesn't feel like it's pulling away when it's really heavy. And then they just attach with these D-rings at the bottom.
Peter gave us this really challenging directive, which was, how can we make straps on a luggage case removable such that you can put them on any case you got after the point of sale? So we could say, hey, look, it doesn't matter if you want a backpack option now, you can always add it on later. And what we did was we basically looked at the harness all together, which includes the straps and the back panel. We basically split the harness in half such that the back panel is always included on every Roadie in a way that's really not visually obvious. It doesn't really look like this converts into a backpack. However, what you have here is you have plush EVA pad, and down here an additional pad for your lumbar. And what this does is it provides a really nice and comfortable back panel to make this case into a backpack. What we did then was we looked at the straps and we said, okay, so what are the two most important things here? Three, I would say. One is comfort. The second one is lightweight, right? You're gonna have these added into your already heavy case. These straps have to be as light and comfortable as they can be, and those are two conflicting attributes. The last one was that they had to be incredibly secure on the case. I mean, these cases can get pretty heavy, so we had to be doubly, triply sure that our points of attachment were incredibly robust and strong. So like Peter said, what we did here was we have a webbing strip with loops at two locations secured by bar tacks, and we have metal D-rings at the bottom corner of each case. Now, in the luggage world, you never want things hanging off of a luggage case. It's kind of like a big no-no. They can get stuck on all sorts of conveyor belts and whatnot. So these are magnetized such that when you're not using them, they're flushed onto the case like that. When you're not needing these straps, okay, they're They fold right up on predetermined scores, and they fit essentially right inside the case in the amount of space that you can fit a 70 to 200 lens approximately.
We wanted to make it be an option for everyone who bought the case, so they don't have to decide at the point of purchase whether or not they need backpack straps. It's always available. It's unbelievably secure, so they never have to worry. No matter how much weight, how dense the gear that's in there, they can be confident that they're going to carry it. And it's comfortable in a way that doesn't usually, because we can't put air mesh on the back because the air mesh would just get torn up in use. So we had to use these very durable materials. But this is not designed to be a backpack. No one's going to go hiking to the top of a mountain with a rolling case.
You could.
So yeah, you could actually, because it is actually pretty comfortable. But yeah. Another thing about the backpack straps and the way that we design them is that a lot of times on all of the cases that have backpack straps sewn in, one of the things that you'll always see is that, well, first of all those cases are two-wheeled cases, right? So you pull it back.
Yeah, all.
And then you've got 3D air mesh, which is the last thing you want to have on the back of the case, dragging on the ground, because it's going to tear like immediately in the first 10 seconds. And then the other thing is you just have all the strappage, just comes and is all hanging on the ground. Mm-hmm. So by adding backpack straps to a spinner case, well, there's two main advantages that we get. First of all, 90% of the time, you're just going to be pushing this case forward on four wheels. So the backpack straps are staying completely elevated off the ground, right? And so they're never dragging on the ground. You don't have to worry about it. Oh, I bought these backpack straps. I'm wearing through the material on the back here. All those things that you'd be thinking about.
These are getting stuck in the wheels.
Right, yeah. Getting stuck in the wheels, all that stuff. The second thing is that you have to make the case smooth enough that it can always roll on four wheels. And because of that aluminum plate that you were talking about, and because of the kinds of wheels and the stability, it means that we can be in New York City on a New York City sidewalk, which is an uneven surface, to say the least. And we can still push this thing forward on four wheels as though we were on a marble floor at the airport. But you couldn't do that with all four-wheeled luggage because it's just not stable enough. And the wheels aren't smooth enough to allow you to roll smoothly on four wheels over an uneven surface.
Right. Well, what does it force you to do? It forces you to tip it back this way,
right,
which makes it even worse for the straps potentially touching the ground.
Yeah. And then the last thing that we do is that even if you do need to tilt it back, because let's say we're going over, in your house, you got a lot of shag carpeting, right? Even on the walls.
Only shag.
Yeah, he loves the sound dampening capabilities of it. So if you were going over a surface like that where there's no way to push four wheels, well, you're going to have to tilt it back. But then we built in these strap keepers, so all of the excess slack on the strap rolls up so that even if you tilt it back on two wheels, the strap still is not dragging on the ground. So you never have to feel like, oh, I'm going to be moving the case now. I got to wrap up those backpack straps, take them off and shove them inside the case. You can go through the rest of your day with these backpack straps on the outside without having to put them away.
The straps are made from the same ballistic nylon as the rest of the case. They're compression molded EVA, so right off the bat, these are an upgrade from almost any backpack straps you'll see on the marketplace, which are typically PU and PE foam. We use custom aluminum hardware for the attachments onto the top of the case, and these really nice dog leash clips, which are tested to 100 pounds per clip. That's 200 pounds per case.
The straps, you can leave them at home if you're just definitely not going to need them because you're walking through an airport, or you can fold them up and tuck them either into the main camera compartment or into the laptop compartment very easily. If you're just not sure if you're going to use them because you're shooting at an event where there might be some rough terrain, or it rained the day before and it might be muddy in the field where you're doing the portraits and you want to be able to carry your case over there. So that's the story of the removable backpack straps. Next big thing is the rigid honeycomb shell. So one of the things with just so many luggage pieces now is that all luggage, camera cases that look like luggage and actual luggage, they all look like hard cases from a distance, right? You look at them, it looks like a rectangle, like a box, and you're like, oh, that's a piece of luggage. It must be very stiff. I'm sure if my flight was delayed and there were no seats at the gate, I could probably sit on that. But then when you get up there to a piece of luggage, you're like, oh no, this flexes. This feels like it's wet pasta. It's just so unusual that there can be these plastic panels, and you're like, no, this is not rigid at all.
Right.
And there are cases out there for cameras where show that padding in the wall, so I'm not saying it's not protected, but it just has no rigidity. It's as rigid as a soft backpack. So it's just like the zipper is the only thing holding it in this like box shape. So with us, we wanted to introduce this rigid honeycomb shell that is, it's a single body all the way around. So the case is unbelievably rigid from the top, from the front, from the back. No matter where you press on this, it is extremely rigid. And that's the regular Roadie spinners. And then Tenba, since going back to the 80s, has the Tenba Air Case, which is our own patented recipe for walls. So this one is probably, what, a quarter of an inch in thickness, which is the regular Roadie. So it is incredibly stiff, and you could sit on this at the airport. But then, in addition, we have the Tenba Air Case, which is walls that are 3/4 of an inch thick, and a case that can take over 500 pounds on top, and a case that is shippable, checkable, and virtually uncrushable. So people always say, oh, I would never check my camera case. And it's like, well, if you're in boarding group 6, they're not really asking you what your opinion is about whether or not, or if you're in a small regional aircraft where the overhead compartment is about the thickness of a ham sandwich, then you're also not going to get it in there. You might have to gauge check it. Yeah. So there's all kinds of times around the world where you just don't really have a choice and you have to check it.
So when we designed our new Roadies, we wanted to make sure that we had the strongest, most durable, most protective sewn cases for photography on the market. Like Peter said, a lot of cases are crushable. You can sort of push your hand down on there. And as an amateur photographer, sometimes professional, I would never want to put my lenses or cameras in a case that moved even a little bit. So that was kind of the standard that we applied to our design here. And instead of using a plastic sheet, for example, which is really common for backpacks when you want a part to be a little stiffer than the rest of the bag, those are really thin, just a couple millimeters. We went for corrugated PC, which is just way stiffer. I mean, it's virtually uncrushable in this orientation and extremely strong in a vertical and horizontal orientation as well. It's also supremely lightweight. So you get this like really great protective shell without the penalty of weight or the cost of injection molding. Now, talking about the air case, our competitors here for the air case really are injection molded cases, which are almost entirely uncrushable. The problem is that they're incredibly heavy. They're also rigid, so they bump around. They're kind of hard on the outside, so you might not like to put that around other gear that's a little bit more sensitive to crushing. So what we wanted to get was like the best of both worlds, which is in our original air case. So we basically took what's great about the corrugated, we doubled it up, and we added essentially a molded frame around the front of this construction, which gives our sidewalls just an absurdly high amount of strength. If you've seen the videos of this case with us before, there are 3 people standing on it at the same time. It gives us really the best of both worlds, a nice soft case with all sorts of pocketing and features and soft handles on the outside, the ability to connect backpack straps, etc., with the incredible protection of essentially an uncrushable frame. You could be sure that whoever grabs this case from you can't do anything to damage it. That's normal activities of, for example, baggage handlers at the airport. If they're stacking multiple cases on top of it, this is the case that you'll need for that just absurdly high amount of crush resistance. But for virtually everybody else, the regular Roadie with the corrugated frame is absolutely strong enough, and it's why it's our most popular item. So how did we upgrade this from the original air case? Well, what we did was we added a laptop sleeve. Now, you might think, if you're adding a laptop sleeve to the front of this case, how does it retain the same amount of strength? And the truth is, you can't use the laptop sleeve and get that same strength at the same time. What we did was we included a special 6th wall, which is removable and fits perfectly into the laptop sleeve. When this wall is added into the door, it becomes 6 walls of uncrushable strength. If you're going to be going on a road trip, you know for sure you're going to have your case with you at all times, you can actually just remove this completely from the case and then use the front door pocket as a laptop sleeve, which is a massive improvement and probably our #1 most requested feature from our original Air case.
So injection molded, one of the words that we've been using here, is just like a hard plastic case. You know, a hard plastic case you might see, you know, on a luggage rack at an airport used by photographers and filmmakers.
Yeah, equipment cases, right?
equipment
That have
cases.
latches and ribs and things like that on the outside. They're made of hard, shiny plastic. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So the things about those that people don't usually think about or talk about, because they don't think that they have an alternative. They think if they want something uncrushable, they need one of those, right? Most of them don't know that an Air case exists. So the first thing is, well, they can't have all of the nice handles and wheels, right? I don't think there's an injection molded spinner case on the market. Typically 2-wheel, they have very rough, kind of not very smooth wheels, not very quiet wheels. They don't have anything like a padded leather handle. And the rear handle, the extending handle usually is not height adjustable or as solid feeling as the one that we use. But then the other part, and this is a part that pros know that travel internationally, is that when you go through an airport with a injection molded plastic case, you are drawing all the attention in the world. You're drawing that attention at Customs and Border Control, where they're like, do you have anything to check? You know, or do you not? You get to go to the green lane or the red lane, right? A hard plastic case is a giant red flag that's like, I am carrying expensive stuff through the airport.
Nobody puts clothes in those cases.
Right, exactly.
Period.
And on the flip side, a case that looks like it is filled with clothes, but is surreptitiously filled with all this camera gear, you just glide through the airport, just quietly, silently, secretly.
It just looks like regular luggage, and that's been the stealth kind of design language that we've been using for years. With the Air case, you get the best of both worlds. You're a stealth traveler who might be just carrying clothes with you, but you have an ultimate protection for your equipment inside.
The next thing we'll just touch on very quickly is our handles, the padded handles. So there's a few things about it that are really interesting and different. First of all, they're not only wrapped with leather, but it's waterproof full grain leather like that you would get on a pair of $300 boots or something like that, or a $5,000 couch. You know, almost no one would ever use this. They would use some cheap piece of leather. The next thing is that not only do we have one on the top, we have one on the side, and then we have a smaller, thinner handle, you know, on the bottom, so that if you're trying to get this into the back of a truck, it's very easy to do. But the other thing about the Roadie construction fundamentally is that by not having it be split 50-50, which you were talking about before, like a regular piece of luggage, if a case has a zipper in the middle, then it is physically impossible to put the handle in the middle. That's where you want the handle. You want to pick this up and have it hold perfectly straight, perfectly level, and that is absolutely critical when you're just moving quickly, you never want your handle to be off center. And that is something only we can do because of the way that the Roadie is constructed this way. We want to touch quickly on the laptop pocket. Obviously a very popular, very necessary feature. As I was saying, you know, so many people are going to 100% for sure carry a laptop in the front pocket. So the first thing we do in the laptop pocket is we have a lockable zipper. So you can use a regular TSA compatible lock, which is actually included with the case along with the security cable on the side. So you can use the lock that comes with it. You can buy another lock to put on there. The laptop sleeve here is over the wheels only because we custom designed these wheels so that it kicks out. But then you can fit a laptop up to 16 inches in here, along with your accessories and cables, your charger, your wall warts, and everything like that in the front of the case. It is critically important that it be in the front there because you're going to need to get it out at airport security. You got to unlatch it, got to open it up, you got to expose everything that's inside to everyone who's standing around you. Right. It's a whole scene. Here, you know, boom, slip it out, put it in the tray, go through airport security, no problem.
But just to highlight, you know, what kind of features are in here more than Peter did. I mean, we've got a padded sleeve here on both sides. So that's really going to be like a laptop sleeve built into the case. Not very uncommon, but something that we get to really do and build up because it's a soft construction. We also have, you know, pocketing up here, an ID window. I mean, it's really a fully featured front pocket. And in front of the laptop sleeve, you have like pretty substantial capacity, even with the laptop installed. I mean, I've been testing this for quite a while. You know, I can easily put a jacket inside here or a sweatshirt with my laptop in the sleeve, with stuff in the pockets up here. You know, that even adds to the overall strength of the case. So it's really a fully featured front pocket on this camera case, which is like, it seems like a bonus to me.
All right, next up is the add-a-bag strap. So the best way to describe what an add-a-bag strap is that when you're in the airport, every pilot, every flight attendant, literally every single one in the whole airport has a roller bag, and then they got something attached to the front of that bag, and that thing is attached by a strap. That's the add-a-bag strap. So it's something that outside of flight attendants and pilots, maybe not a lot of people know about, maybe their luggage doesn't have it. But here we have it for a variety of reasons. One, because you might need to attach a second bag to the front of your bag, a messenger bag, a backpack, a handbag, a purse, a tote bag, whatever. But for photographers, it's almost like the add-a-bag strap is for something that we don't even know what it is that you have. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like, is it collapsible reflectors? Is it an Apple box?
Yep.
I don't know what it is that you're traveling with. Is it a makeup kit that you have that it won't fit on the inside, it won't sit on the top securely. So we give this strap in the front. It comes right out of this pocket, and you can attach whatever you need to, whenever you need to. Going through an airport, walking to your car, walking down 8 blocks of New York City, whatever it is that won't sit securely on the front and it won't attach to the handle very easily, but you need to attach it to the bag. That's what the add-a-bag strap is.
Right. Yeah, and look, that's another thing that you get on a sewn case that you don't get in a molded case,
Yeah.
one of the hard shell cases. You don't get cool features like this, where there's a pocket under the handle that has a feature inside. You know, you basically just get like a shell. That's all you get. So here's like another feature. And you know, there's no strap on the back of this bag, and there might not be a strap on your purse, or there might not be a strap on your Apple box in order to put it onto the trolley handle. But you know, some backpacks will have a strap, like our Axis LT. You know, and that's just going to slip on top of the case through the handle. So what you have here now is actually 3 bags that are supported by our spinner system. You know, this is an incredibly easy thing to push through the airport. It takes only a couple of fingers to do that, but this could be a really heavy setup. I mean, your backpack could be filled with gear, photography gear, your case could be totally full. And this could have some lenses in it too. So you could imagine the type of weight that you have here, and you don't have to tip it back, which is like the whole key, because once you tip it back, you know, all of it's going to be supported on the trolley handle. In this case, you can just spin this thing right next to you with a couple of fingers of effort, and that's just like a total game changer in the airport. Once you have it, you know, once you've lived with features like that, like there's no going back.
Yeah.
You know, you can't tip a case behind you and pull it anymore once you've traveled with features like this.
Let's talk about the side pocket, how we got to this particular design as opposed to what we've done previously. In the past, we made some tripod carriers that were maybe a little too clever for their own good. We had some that looked a little bit like quivers. We had one that had a Velcro cuff around the top. It looked a little bit like maybe what a priest might wear or something like that. We had some clips on the side so that it pulled in and did all this fancy stuff. And then it turned out that actually gravity does 98% of the job of keeping the tripod in the case. We built in this side pocket with this zipper on 3 sides. And, you know, when you own this case and when you use it all the time, it takes approximately 2 to 3 seconds to add a tripod to this, as opposed to maybe
huge improvement.
3 to 5 minutes on some of the stuff that we've done previously. And then the other thing about the side pocket being made the way that it is that, okay, we've got a travel style tripod here. It fits completely into this pocket. We could have a 1 or 2 series tripod and it would fit completely inside this pocket. But if you had a real big set of sticks where it clearly wouldn't fit in here, you'd fit 2 legs in the pocket,
Right.
1 leg outside. It still holds. Once you tighten this compression strap down, the security strap here, it just almost doesn't even matter how big the tripod is. It can tower over this Roadie because of the stability that we've talked about in the base. It's just capable of carrying the weight on one side like that. In doing that, We took all of the hassle out of it. We took all of the removableness of it, anything that you can get lost, like extra straps and cuffs and stuff like that. And we just made it so that it fits virtually any tripod of virtually any size and weight, and it just holds securely all the time.
Yeah, and like you said at the very beginning, it's a side pocket, not a side tripod sleeve. So if you're not using a tripod, it's a zippered pocket that can hold literally anything, including your additional straps, which happen to fit in there just about perfectly. And that's the way I use it. So,
Or a water bottle.
Water bottle. So what you've got here is a multifunction pocket that's not only a tripod pocket. And if you get any trouble with that at TSA, security line, you can take everything out of the pocket, zip it back up, and you're right back to your carry-on compatibility. So
Yeah, it's great. So on the multi-stage handle, we have that rubber overmold, which is incredibly comfortable. And, it sounds like something like, who cares about, does it really make a difference? Well, it sure does. When it's wet outside or when it's really cold outside, you're going to want that overmold if you're not wearing gloves. A New York winter, rolling this down 10 blocks, you were going to want something that makes this not be straight aluminum. The other thing on the
Or
handle,
plastic.
or plastic, yeah, which is even worse. The other thing is that we have 3 levels of height here. So users of varying heights can just find a comfortable spot. Everyone knows what it's like going through an airport where the handle on your luggage is a little too tall or a little too short is even worse.
Yep.
Especially going back to the injection molded handles, they're usually a little too short because they don't have the adjustability. We built in the 3 levels of height adjustment.
when I think about the improvements of the Roadie, especially the Roadie spinner, I definitely think about the wheels and the whole spinner platform as the #1 improvement. But I actually think the handle is the second biggest improvement. And on any design, the touch points, the place where you're going to hold the product in your hand is like incredibly important. And we had customer feedback, years of feedback on our original Roadie. And one of the complaints that we got occasionally was that the handle didn't match the overall robustness of the case. Even though it was robust, it didn't feel like it was. So in this case, we really upped the game here in terms of the overall feel. So Peter said, we have this rubber overmold. We have a larger diameter handle, which just feels better in the hand, especially for a case that can get very heavy like this. Instead of a tube that's basically a rounded profile, we have this faceted profile here, which just makes the entire handle stronger. Anytime you put a tube in a tube, which is what is happening here, these ridges will add structural stability and stiffness onto the handle. So it is a 2-stage handle in this case, or actually a 3-stage handle, but it feels like a single unit because it's so stiff because of that shaping. One other super important thing about this handle versus our previous handle, and it even applies to our wheels, is that the Roadie case was designed to be repaired. From the very beginning, this is another one of Peter's things that he said is just a non-negotiable, is that the case had to be repairable in terms of the things that we see the most damage on. So obviously wheels, it's luggage. Wheels are gonna get damaged no matter how crazy we built them, and we built these in a crazy way. They should last through almost everything, but wheels break, handles break. We have a lot of moving parts inside here. So what we wanted to do was make sure that our customers could replace their handles easily with simple tools. In the case of this handle, you have 2 screws here. You have some screws on the inside, which attach it here. Only screws, no glues. Same deal with the wheels. We have screws on the outside. In some cases, there are screws on the inside. Again, screws, not glues. So we have here a case where the most breakable parts of luggage, namely the handles and wheels, it's just an industry fact, on our case are replaceable, but easily replaceable, and also saves us a lot of headache because if a customer needs to get a case immediately to replace their existing case with wheels that might not have been removable in the past, now we can just swing you out the parts. We have videos online which show you how to replace them easily. And it's just a game changer because, we have some photographers even who will buy spares beforehand. So they'll have a handle on hand, a couple of extra wheels on hand, because if you're going to a gig and your wheel breaks, is there anything worse? You're getting paid to be there. You have to come through. your wheel breaks. That's why we built them the way we did, and that's why we made them easily replaceable and repairable. And the same goes for our handle, which is like, you just got to feel it to know what we're talking about here. But combined with the wheels and the whole rest of this platform, it's just like an ultra smooth experience, no matter how heavy it is, no matter what kind of surface you're rolling over. All the touch points of this bag are just comfortable to hold, and they're extremely durable. And it just pairs really well with a case that I think, sort of matches this pairing of durability and comfort and quality.
Safety and security is always top of mind, and one of the things that adds to that is the hidden AirTag pocket. So this way you have an AirTag or a tile tracker in here. You can track your bag from anywhere in the world. It's absolutely critical, and we have so many stories of photographers and filmmakers who've had their bags shifted a little bit too far away from them for comfort and being able to track them down because it had an AirTag inside of it. So the hidden AirTag pocket is not only inside the case, but it's also inside this pocket, and then inside there, it's in
There's another pocket. It's a pocket
hidden
and a pocket and a pocket.
neoprene sleeve in there. So it's pretty dug down deep. So you'll you put it in there, set it and forget it, as they say.
Yeah. Just another security feature of this case, which is like between the locks and the AirTag, and you've really got something here that you can have the peace of mind where if that your case is not going to go anywhere, but if it does, you've got the hidden AirTag in there to track it down. So
Yeah. Tenba's been doing this since 1977. We started at Broadway and Spring Street in New York City. We still design our cases in New York. We live in the city. We work with photographers and filmmakers around New York City and around the world. And so these cases are just every piece of feedback we've gotten over the last 50 years about any kind of rolling case, about traveling through an airport, about being on an airplane, about getting into a hotel, about going to a foreign country where somebody wants to charge you tax on everything that's inside your case, about traveling as stealthily, as comfortably, and as securely as possible, right?
Yeah, like we're not designing these in a vacuum. We're designing these with you, with the professional photographers who work closely with us, the professional photographers who reach out to us sight unseen, having never met us before, to tell us what they think of our cases, why they like them, why they struggle, what we could fix. We've been hearing that stuff for years, and we've been applying the top comments to these cases, and we hope that we're going to satisfy a lot of photographers out there who've been asking for this exact stuff. So
Yeah, for sure. So from Peter and George and the rest of the Tenba design team, Julie, and everyone else who works on our team to make the cases as great as they are, we want to say thank you for your time, and that's the Tenba Roadie collection.
yeah, and thanks for reaching out to us, and don't stop. Keep reaching out and tell us what you think of our products. It makes our products better, which makes it better for you.